Hi everyone, my name is Natalie. Today I wanted to do the first video in what I hope will become a video series. I talked in my reading goals video for 2024 that one of my goals is to read specific authors. I wanted to explore more of their work. So most of the authors on that list was authors I'd read something by and wanted to read more of. Some of them I was very familiar with and just wanted to revisit some of their titles and just sort of focus on these authors. Some of them were actually completely new to me. And so I have called this my 12 authors that I want to read in 2025. However, I ended up starting the year with an author that wasn't on the list, and I ended up going down a rabbit hole and reading through her entire bibliography in the months of January and February. And so today I actually wanted to talk through her books with you. And so it's not officially part of the 12 authors list, but it ended up becoming a focus point in the first few weeks of this year. And so the author I'm talking about is Helene Hanff, which you have probably already seen. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll have seen me share my reading of her books, and I think I've written reviews for several of the books on Goodreads as well. I will put links to, as always, I always put links to my Instagram and Goodreads in the description. Go check that out if you're interested. But I am going to talk my way through all of Helene Hanff's books in chronological order and my thoughts on them. And if you are familiar with Helene Hanff, you might know already that she's the author of 84 Charing Cross Road, which is probably her most famous book and the one that started my obsession. Sarah from Hardcover Hearts does a annual read-along of 84 Charing Cross Road on the 1st of January each year, and this year was the second time that I participated, and as I said, I ended up going down a rabbit hole. So let's go back in time. So I actually read them from 84 Charing Cross Road and onwards to the end of her bibliography, and then I ended with reading her first book. But I'll talk through them chronologically. The first book that she published is called Underfoot in Show Business, and it came out in 1962. Underfoot in Show Business chronicles her tries to become a successful playwright. She wrote plays so this book basically chronicles the 40s and the 50s. Basically, she had dreams of becoming a playwright. So she wrote plays, and initially she thought that she would get her break pretty quickly because I think she won a prize of some sort. She won some early recognition by famous names in the business, in the industry, and it seemed like everything was building up towards early success and a breakthrough in this business. But one of the things that she talks about in this memoir is, I think she calls it Flanagan's Law, in which you should never expect the expected. Basically that if it seems like things are going well in the beginning, you'll have the opposite of what you expect as an end result. And while she had early recognition and a lot of people in the industry showed interest in her work, they never actually did anything with her plays. They never produced them. And so she was in this kind of limbo for a really long time, and this book chronicles both how she ended up making a living throughout those years when she was still trying to make it as a playwright. So she did a lot of side jobs along to provide to make a living, to be able to afford living in New York, because at first she was living in Philadelphia and sort of traveling back and forth, renting hotel rooms in order to be in New York for various meetings with influential people. And she did a lot of other jobs to make enough money to be able to afford to live in New York, to continue to write and to try to make it. But eventually she started writing scripts for television and then moved onwards into writing autobiographies and memoirs and her other books that I have read and that we'll continue talking about in this video. The thing I think that I really liked about this book is that of all of her books, it's the one that has the clearest focus. It's very much about the entertainment industry in New York, about the changing attitudes towards theater, moving onwards to Hollywood and then onwards to television, and sort of the changing landscape of writing plays. The way that the theater was losing its grip on this being a kind of an authority on entertainment. And she talks about the struggling artist in New York, the atmosphere of New York being one of the things that is recurring in all of her books, is New York as an entity, as a breathing character, and it's one of the things that I love about her writing. And you can definitely see that. It's kind of the thing that Patti Smith's memoir have as well, Just Kids. It's the same sort of background, but a little bit earlier in the 20th century. So if you already like that kind of atmosphere, you'll probably also enjoy this book. A big portion of this book is also talking about her friendship with a woman called Maxine, who was trying to make it as an actress, and she is similarly struggling to make ends meet. She's doing a lot of jobs that she might not feel that proud of, and that she's just doing to make to keep on trying to make it. And both of them do this, and one of the things that Helene Hanff does is write scripts for Ellery Queen's mysteries on television. And I think this book is definitely like a time capsule. It really paints a picture of this time and place in New York in the 40s and the 50s, in this changing atmosphere of the industry, of this person who has so much passion for what they're doing, even though it's not giving anything. Even to be able to stick to a dream for 20 years without much payoff, I think is quite impressive. And I love Hanff's sort of humor and the way she pokes fun at herself, and the way she offers a lot of insights that she's learned along the way. And yeah, it's just a really fantastic memoir. So I really enjoyed this one. And then the next one that she published was 84 Charing Cross Road, which came out in 1970. And this is a collection of letters of that she wrote. It's the letter exchange of Helene Hanff and Frank Dole, as well as some other people. So Helene Hanff starts writing a letter to a bookseller in the UK, a antiquarian or secondhand bookshop in the UK at the time. And the letter exchange, I think, starts around the 40s, so it's paralleling the stories in Underfoot in Show Business, as much of her writing is, sort of giving you different sides to the same time. And so the letter exchange starts with Helene Hanff writing to this bookseller in the UK, Marks & Co., that is place is the geographical location is on 84 Charing Cross Road, which is where the title comes from. And she writes that she's looking for particular titles and wants to order them. It's a very basic order letter. It's there's nothing personal about this first letter, but it starts off being this back and forth. She's ordering books, they're sending books, and she's maybe giving more humorous answers and letters to them than strictly is warranted for this type of exchange. But over the course of years and decades, they form a friendship. Helene Hanff and Frank Dole, who is the seller she has most communications with, but she also ends up becoming involved in his family, in the other sellers in Marks & Co., in their families, and it's a nest of people that she has gotten to know through letters alone, because they never meet throughout the course of 84 Charing Cross Road. You see them going through the post-war years and the struggles of poverty and of, from Helene Hanff's point of view, definitely, she's struggling to make a living, as I mentioned, in Underfoot and show business. And with rationing in the UK, one of the things that I love about 84 Charing Cross Road is that it really conveys community and friendship that in this instance originates in the love of books, and something that I see so many parallels to my experiences with BookTube and with Bookstagram, finding other book lovers all around the world. And while our friendships might have started with our shared love and interest in books, it has often ended up becoming so much more and sharing so many other aspects of our lives. And I think because of that, this feels like a book that really showcases that kind of an experience and relationships. So it's a fantastic book. I have now read it twice, and I expect that I will read it every year in January, because it's a fantastic way to start the year and sort of gives you hope for what human connections can be. So it's a wonderful book, highly recommend. It follows with a memoir, or a travel memoir, I guess, travel journal, called The Duchess of Bloomsbury Street, that came out in 1973. And this book chronicles her first trip to the UK. So I mentioned that Helene Hanff and Frank Dole never met, and they never ended up doing so because Frank Dole died. At the end of 84 Charing Cross Road, he dies. And in Duchess of Bloomsbury Street, she actually has the opportunity for the first time to travel to London, and she gets to meet a lot of the people that she had this letter exchange with and that she'd gotten to know through the letters. But he had died. She met his wife and kids, daughters, and she got to see so many of the places that she'd only read about through the letters. She got to see the place of the bookshop, even though I don't think even at this point in time when she goes there it already had closed. She got to see so many historical places that Shakespeare had been. Another thing that Duchess of Bloomsbury Street really showcases is what an impact her book 84 Charing Cross Road had on people, because when Duchess came out, 84 Charing Cross Road had already made it big. Not in a necessarily big financial way, because she does talk about this throughout her books, that she was never rich in the sense that it's not like all of this interest and curiosity in her books meant that she became a millionaire. It meant that she had a stable income for the first time in her life, but it also meant a lot of riches in human connections. A lot of people related so deeply to the letter exchanges. Some of it, I think, related to the love of books. A lot of it related to the way that it chronicles UK at the time. And so it did something to people. And in Duchess of Bloomsbury Street, when she finally gets an opportunity to visit London, she also is invited into a lot of people's homes. She's invited to eat dinners and all kinds of places that people basically just want to meet her, want to be able to show her around in London, in the surrounding areas, and she's having this fantastic travel experience. And at times it is overwhelming, and that also comes across in her memoir chronicling this. But she's also overwhelmed with connection, with enthusiasm and passion and community. And I really loved reading Duchess, especially so closely after reading 84 Charing Cross Road. I think it's a perfect companion, and a lot of the times it's also actually published together. So would definitely say that if you've read 84 Charing Cross Road, you should absolutely go on to read Duchess of Bloomsbury Street as well. The next one in her publication order is Apple of My Eye, that came out in 1977. So this is also travel writing in a way, but it's not travel in the sense that it chronicles New York, where she has lived for most of her life when this book comes out. So like I said, she grew up in Philadelphia but moved to New York as a young person, as I think in her early 20s, and has lived in New York all that time, and she has a very strong connection to the place. As I said, it is a constant background and oftentimes a character in all of her writing. And this book, she is exploring New York as if she was a tourist. She does a lot of the things that if you were a tourist you would do, like visit and see the Statue of Liberty, or go on tour buses, visit various museums, basically do all the things that you would do if you were traveling to New York, but that you often don't do if you live in a place. And this book, she is going on all of these trips, walking around New York, exploring it and seeing it with fresh eyes with her friend, who she sort of dragged into this project. And so in that respect, it's sort of travel writing because she's exploring these places in a new way and chronicling the atmosphere, the various museums and what they have to offer, sort of things that you should be aware of, the history of certain places and statues and whatnot, memorials. And I think I can definitely relate to that, in that even though I've lived in Gothenburg most of my life, there are still a lot of typical things that you do here that I haven't done, because you don't think of doing those things if you live in a place. Museums, I think, if you're the kind of person who enjoy going to museums, then you would go to your local museums, and I do regularly. But there are definitely other touristy things that I've never done and that I kind of want to do because of reading this book. I really enjoyed this. It's a lot of fun, and it's, I would say, more sort of humorous and lighthearted than some of her other books. I also felt a lot of wanderlust through reading this and really want to visit New York. That was definitely strengthened by this book in particular and by reading all of her books, to be honest, which I have never done, and that is on my list of future things. I think this is the kind of book that if you're interested in New York and also interested in a historical point of view, because even though this came out in the late 70s, so it's not so old, it's old enough that New York doesn't look the same. She talks about the Twin Towers, and you cannot but help to think how much the world has changed since she covered all of this. So it's really fun as, again, a time capsule of a particular time and place, but also I think a lot of the air of New York, a lot of the character of the place is still the same. And as I said, it definitely gave me a lot of wanderlust. The next in her publication order is Q's Legacy, a delightful account of a lifelong love affair with books. It came out in 1985. This one is a bit more scattered than her other books, so I've mentioned Underfoot, which was definitely like a clear and tight memoir. It has a clear focus on her life, and it's basically an autobiography because it goes through her young adult years until the present time when she published the book. And the travel writings have also a clear focus. The Duchess has the clear focus of the London trip, and Apple of My Eye has the clear focus on New York, exploring New York. But Q's legacy starts off being and talking about how she fell in love with books and reading, especially classics and classic nonfiction, I guess, because she for a long time has said that she doesn't like fiction, even though there are definitely exceptions to that. She talks in this book about her lack of formal education in university settings, or sort of advanced studies, I guess. So how she decided to sort of teach herself by going to the library and reading a lot of books. And so this book does talk about her falling into love with reading, falling into specific authors, and learning and educating herself. But it's also a mishmash of other things. Some of it is anecdotes of New York, some of it is travel writings because she has other trips to London because of other books that she's done, or other reasons, like, for example, I think 84 Charing Cross has a play of some sort or something along those lines when this book is being written, and so she chronicles various trips as well as other things. So this is a mishmash kind of book. I really enjoy the parts in this, but I would say that this is probably the least cohesive of her writings, and I would only recommend it if you have already read the other ones, or if you really want to read all of it. I really enjoyed it, but like I said, it's more enjoying Hanff's anecdotes and just enjoying being along for the ride, rather than liking the book structure. And as a whole, I enjoy the pieces, but I don't think that this is as well executed as her other books. But that leads me on to the last of her books published. A Letter from New York, BBC Women's Hour broadcast, published in 1992. This is a compilation of scripts that she did for the Women's Hour. So basically once a month she wrote sort of an anecdote thing of New York life that was read out loud on BBC Women's Hour. And I think it was between 78 and maybe 79 and 84, something along those lines. So it's about 5 years worth of radio scripts, I guess is the best word for it. It's basically essays of New York life, and once a month she wrote something related to her life. Most of it, like I said, is specifically about New York, so it has elements of time and place, but it's also just lifestyle and various shenanigans. So one of the things she talks a lot about is her neighbors, her relationship with her neighbors. She lives in this apartment house where everyone knows each other very well, it seems like, and sometimes it's a bad thing. You hear a lot through the walls, and sort of having the proximity to a lot of people can be a frustration, but it also showcases a lot of community. She talks about giving a Christmas party and having different parts of the Christmas dinner stored in other neighbors' kitchens because she doesn't have the space to storage all of the things in her own fridge. And she has a really good relationships with all of her neighbors. She has the extra keys to a lot of neighbors' homes. She's really involved in all of the people around her. and she talks about her relationship with her neighbors' dogs, going to parks with them, and sort of the atmosphere in parks in New York. And she talks about the seasons and celebrating Thanksgiving. I really enjoyed this book. I think this is the perfect book to gift to someone who loves New York, because like I said, it is, even though some of the anecdotes are not overtly about New York, it still feels very much like a context for all of the stories that she shares, and most of them are overtly about New York. In some way or another, you feel like the place is integral to the stories, which I think was the appeal in the BBC Women's Hour radio show as well. The Letter from New York aspect of it being sort of, I don't want to say exotic, but it's sort of that sense that it's from over the sea, and giving a glimpse of a life that someone in the UK would not have if they hadn't traveled there themselves. So a perfect gift, I think, for anyone who's interested in New York. A lot of fun and sort of a comfort read, I feel like, and definitely one I could see myself just sort of jumping back and forth and sort of reading snippets from when I felt like I needed that kind of warmth that I feel is a red thread throughout all of her a red thread throughout all of her writing. And I just feel like she's really interested in people, and that it comes across as being there being a lot of compassion and interest and curiosity in life and in humans, and in dogs, which is definitely something I really appreciated in this book. And a lovely book to have, and it was actually recently republished in a new edition that I am planning to buy for myself. I've read all of them through the library, so I am now slowly going to be collecting all of these books to add to my shelves to have for whenever I feel like I need the comfort of Hanff's words. I think one of the reasons that I was so drawn to her writing in the beginning of this year is that January is a low point in the year. It has been the winter blues all throughout this year until now. It's starting to clear up slightly with spring kind of around the corner. It feels like it's possible that spring will arrive again. And throughout this time, Hanff has been a true comfort. Like I said, definitely the warmth of her writing and a curiosity for life that I feel very much like I found a kindred spirit in that. So I want to strongly recommend all of her books and reading some of her writing. If you have become interested in reading any of them, hear me talk about them, definitely let me know. I would be very happy to hear if I have managed to make any of you interested in her writing. That was all I wanted to say for this video. I will hopefully return soon with a video talking about some of the other things I've been reading recently. And until then, I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.